Governor Ron DeSantis represents a special kind of hatefulness because he knows better. He may be cynical and cruel, but he's not stupid. He's an Ivy League educated lawyer and a Navy veteran. He knows full well what his hateful rhetoric and policies targeting minorities will lead to, and he doesn't care. I, too, am a Navy vet with an Ivy League law degree, and I cannot stand to watch Ron DeSantis, in the wake of another mass shooting targeting minorities, act as if he has no idea where the hate-fueled violence in his state is coming from. I talked about this with my good friend Mike Breen, the head of Human Rights First, and a combat vet with an Ivy League law degree, and he had this damning insight about Florida's governor. DeSantis pretends to be stupid whenever it suits his political ambitions, even when it gets people killed. Here's my conversation with Mike. You do not want to miss this one. Mike, it's great to have you back. Yet again, we have to talk about a mass shooting. And Human Rights First, the organization you lead, put out a really thoughtful post. But before I ask you about that, I want to share with the audience this incredible interview with Florida Representative Angie Nixon. Roll the tape.
My blood is literally boiling. Myself and other representatives, particularly Black representatives, throughout the past few legislative sessions, we have repeatedly told him what his rhetoric was going to do. And that is exactly what transpired on yesterday. This is absurd. It's ridiculous. He is one of the causes to this. This is an agenda that he has been pushing since he has gotten into office. I am more than angry. And now there are 3 families that no longer have their family members to come home to. This is here in Florida. Governor DeSantis and the Republican Party of Florida are doing nothing but hurting us. And I am angry, and I will not continue to sit idly by. All of the elected leaders need to come together and push out this hateful rhetoric, which has just been exacerbated since around 2015, 2016. I feel that our community members we need to hold us elected officials accountable. We work for you. Right? We work for you, and you need to hold us accountable, not just at the ballot box, but year round. You need to push the policies that you deserve, right? And you know, at the end of the day, we need common sense gun reform. We do, but also, as elected officials, we need to be accountable for the words that come out of our mouths time and time again, for the policies that we push, for the communities and families that we are hurting. I have families calling me day in and day out saying they can no longer afford Florida. They do not feel safe. The NAACP issuing a travel advisory. That is real. That is what's happening in the state of Florida. And you have a governor who cares more about pandering to a base of voters, not even caring about what's happening here in our state of Florida and the 8,000 educator shortage that we have, right? The property insurance crisis that we're dealing with, the rising rent cost. No, he wants to be vindictive to Black folks because it gives him points in poll numbers. That's what we're dealing with. America, you are in danger, girl. We must stop Ron DeSantis in his tracks. I am not an angry Black woman. I am a woman who is speaking truth to power to let you all know this man means us no good. And it is evident by what transpired here yesterday in Jacksonville, Florida.
All right, Mike, I think she captures just about everything that needs to be said, especially the gut-wrenching feelings we all have about this. Talk about your thoughts on the governor's complicity. I don't want to go too far, but when you have as one of the planks of your political ambition continuing to target marginalized minority groups, I mean, at some point, you got to be called out for having blood on your hands. Where are you on this?
Yeah, Ken. I mean, I hope one of these weeks we can get together and have a conversation, and it's not in the wake of a tragedy or senseless killing. Her video is incredible, and everybody should watch it. I can only imagine the psychological pressure that, and just the grief and the anger that underlies it. Living in a political environment like that, representing a community the way that she does. And you're right. I don't want to overstate things, but I also don't want to be. Forgive me for saying so, sort of willfully ignorant or obtuse about things either. Law enforcement's put out a statement that I think is very important to put out, and it's true as far as it goes. This individual acted alone, was not part of an organized group, so far as they can tell, and I think that's an important thing to say for the sake of everybody feeling secure. But of course, in a larger sense, it's not true at all. These incidents are not isolated. These things don't happen on their own, and Governor DeSantis is, particularly terrible and current example of a long line of politicians, mostly in the American South, who've trafficked in hate, and as a way to try to make a name for themselves. And he knows damn well what he's doing, and I think we all do a tremendous disservice to ourselves when we try to imagine in the wake of an event like this that it's a surprise, that you can build a political career on his words, a war on woke, that you can try to champion yourself as the champion of one ethnic or racial identity against others, that you can try to really offensively whitewash the history of slavery and civil rights abuse in this country in a way that's really demeaning to Black Americans and frankly demeaning to all of us, and then be surprised when people act violently. And there's a larger historical context, and I think we should talk about that too. But this is not a surprise, nor is it new. When you bring these extremist theories and ideologies mainstream, when you traffic in things like the Great Replacement theory, and you try to convince people that shadowy elites, saying the quiet part out loud sometimes, meaning Jewish Americans or Jewish people, and a quote unquote 1% are using Black and brown Americans to take away the political power of white Americans. And then when people act violently in response to what you've told them over and over and over again, is a conspiracy that existentially threatens them and their families, and then you pretend to be surprised and you pretend to stand in solidarity with the victims of this violence. I don't think any of us should take that seriously.
Well, the community is certainly holding him accountable. His attempt to offer his condolences, I think, was met with the appropriate amount of skepticism. If we can find that clip, we'll run it as well. But the thing about DeSantis in particular is that we know that he knows better. And I think you and I should spend some of our social capital here as veterans, as lawyers, calling out a veteran like DeSantis. Harvard law grad, we were Yale, but we know the type. He is smart enough to know exactly what he's doing. And unlike someone like Tuberville, who may or may not realize just how inciting his rhetoric can be, DeSantis knows full well what his provocations might lead to, and he offers them anyway.
That's absolutely right. I mean, he pretends to be an idiot when it suits him, and that's of a piece with a lot of other politicians. You think of Josh Hawley, Yale Law School. We could go on and on, but it's true. He knows absolutely what he's doing. I think more importantly, he is a veteran, and leadership, even at a basic level in the military, means a level of responsibility for what you are responsible for, everything that your unit does or fails to do. That was my job description as a platoon leader. I was 23, right? The platoon leader is responsible for everything that his unit does or fails to do. Ron DeSantis is the governor of a state. He has that leadership training, went to one of the best law schools in the world. He's a highly educated person. He understands history. I dealt with him frequently when he was in Congress, testified before his committee that he was chairing. He's very intelligent. He knows exactly what he's doing. And he is not acting with a level of responsibility one would expect from a leader 20 or 30 years his junior in the military. We used to talk about command climate in units, and that as a leader, you're responsible for setting a moral tone in the unit that you lead, and how that directly drives outcomes in combat. And he fully understands that. And he's chosen to try to gain power by creating a toxic environment, by turning some of the people he professes to lead in his state against others, by being divisive on purpose, and by mainstreaming extremist ideology. He cannot then go on and be surprised when terrible things happen.
Thanks for listening, everyone. I've got a quick break here, but I need a favor first. Shows like this depend on your support. Please, if you can spare 5 seconds, click the link to the podcast version of the show below and leave us a 5-star review. It really does help. Thanks. Staying healthy, especially when you have a family that you want to be able to spend as much time with as possible, is so important. We all have a heartfelt reason to support our blood pressure. In fact, more than half the U.S. population would benefit from blood pressure support. Super Beets Heart Chews are an easy and convenient way to support healthy blood pressure, and they promote heart-healthy energy. Paired with a healthy lifestyle, the antioxidants in Super Beets are clinically shown to be nearly 2 times more effective at promoting normal blood pressure than a healthy lifestyle alone. And with over 30,000 5-star reviews and counting, Super Beets Heart Chews are having their moment. Super Beets Heart Chews are delicious and so much better than any alternative supplement out there. Super Beets Heart Chews are effective and clinically studied. They are the #1 pharmacist-recommended beet brand for cardiovascular health support. It's blood pressure support you can trust. Double your potential with Super Beets Heart Chews. Get a free 30-day supply of Super Beets Heart Chews and 15% off your first order by going to getsuperbeets.com and using promo code BOATS. That's getsuperbeets.com, code BOATS. We're supposed to be reassured by the fact that the shooter likely acted alone, and I'm not reassured. When I think about the whole lone wolf modality, and when it reaches scale, it is, if anything, more terrifying than an organization that you're able to go after. And it brings to mind the idea of stochastic terrorism. This was nothing less. It was a terror campaign motivated by political rhetoric. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong at all. At a basic level, we know that mass shooters encourage each other online. They read one another's manifestos. They study one another's attacks. This sick individual clearly intended that and painted a swastika on his AR-15, sent his father, a racist, toxic manifesto. I mean, he could not have been more clear about what was motivating him here. Unfortunately, I think it's very likely that this attack and those manifestos will be studied by the next person. So in a very broad sense, there's nothing that's lone about this, nothing solo about the attack. But it also happens as inside a much larger historical context that I think we're all responsible for understanding. I mean, this literally occurred as thousands of Americans gathered to honor the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, which was calling for the end of gun violence and racial justice. A close friend and colleague of mine was marching and described the experience of everybody's phones going off with the news of this attack, and the wave of pain and anger that moves through the crowd, and then a sense of collective love and healing that no group of folks in America should ever be asked to bear, and that Black Americans have been asked to bear at a level that I spiritually struggle to understand how they find the strength to do this again and again and again. Jacksonville itself has a long history of hate. Right? The attack took place the day before Sunday's vigils fell on the 63rd anniversary of Axe Handle Saturday, which is a lesser-known event, but this is in 1960, about 200 white men attacked Black people who were engaged in a peaceful sit-in led by the NAACP Youth Council that was opposing racial segregation. It's called Axe Handle Sunday because they beat peaceful protesters with axe handles. And over the last year, we've seen Jacksonville, it's just seen a series of hateful statements in public spaces, including a wave of anti-Semitic propaganda. Again, the Great Replacement conspiracy theory really links anti-Semitism with anti-Black and anti-Brown racist hate. But anti-Semitic propaganda was projected onto the city's football stadium, onto buildings, onto overpasses. There were banners supporting the Confederacy flown over the city's downtown. Earlier this year, the CEO of the Jacksonville Jewish Federation told the local newspaper that she feels people are emboldened to move to Florida, to move to the state to showcase racist and anti-Semitic beliefs because of the political climate being cultivated there by the governor and others. So there's a deep history and a very dangerous current environment that is around this attack, and that continues, and that continues to be propagated by the state's political leadership.
We know that anti-Semitism and virulent racism exists elsewhere. It often bubbles up to the surface, but Florida seems to be a singular case where these voices feel emboldened to parade in front of Disney World, for example, or as you pointed out, to project anti-Semitic symbols on the Jaguar Stadium. Make the logical leap for us between the political climate in Florida fostered by the governor there and this sense that I get as an outsider that there's a permission structure, the wrong kind of permission structure for people to express the most hateful beliefs.
Yeah, I don't think it's much of a logical leap, unfortunately, Ken. I mean, it's pretty clear. I mean, you've got the governor of the state, the elected chief executive of a political community, who has decided to base his national political aspirations and his political career on declaring himself and his state the champions of a movement against pluralism, essentially, right? Against what he calls wokeism, but he's in a legal battle against Disney about this. He's fighting Mickey Mouse about diversity issues. He is introducing, bills that are designed to change and censor school curriculum and directly attack the ability of public schools to teach about the history, the actual history of race and violence in America. He's propagating conspiracy theories in the open, like Great Replacement, which are anti-Semitic, anti-Black, and anti-Brown. He's encouraging this environment. In fact, he's made it his entire political brand. And so I think, he's gone way out of his way to create, a permission structure that he also views as a political base of support. So when I hear about, again, the concern of local Jewish leaders that there's a climate in Florida that's encouraging people to move there in order to be openly anti-Semitic and openly racist, I don't think it's an overstatement to say that that's the other way to say that is that there's a political climate that's been created that's designed to attract DeSantis supporters to Florida. I mean, he's built a political movement around this. And he can use all the coded language he wants, but it's not even that coded. It's pretty in the open. And again, highly educated man, military veteran, Harvard law graduate. He knows exactly what he's doing.
That is such an important insight. In a way, this actually serves him. It strengthens his appeal to his base, and there's just something so sick about that. Mike, thank you, as always, for joining us. We've reached out to Representative Nixon. We're going to try to get her on, but thank you for providing your perspective. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it.
We are not going to allow these institutions to be targeted by people.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.